Okay, and so again, everybody, welcome to our amazing presentation tonight with Landen Schaelling. It is Building a Resilient Community, Our Path to a Thriving Future. And in case you're not familiar with Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, our acronym is NASCA. So we try to use that as much as possible because otherwise it's a mouthful. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going out on a limb here. Okay, I don't think I can share my screen. Best laid plans because I'm recording it. So I was going to do a really quick demonstration about how amazing our website is. So I'll just go ahead and tell you, and also put in the chat box. We really want you to save this as one of your favorites. So it's nasca.org. So easy, because this is where you're going to find all the information that you need to know and keep up to date on all of the presentations and events that we have. Just go to the events tab, and I created a virtual event tab, which is basically where all of our presentations are going right now. Flagstaff and Cottonwood both have a shoe climate strike this Saturday, so we added that on to the calendar, but Prescott doesn't have like a live place because we're not having a climate strike. So once we actually start going and doing things back out in the community, we'll add those. But mostly you can get all the information you need to know from the events tab on our amazing website. And we also have a video library, and there's also a wonderful donate button. You can't miss that because we are a grassroots people-powered organization, and we rely on generous donations or even just $5 or $10, whatever you can give to help keep our work going and alive. Jenna and I are both paid organizers. We are very fortunate to have this job, and so just keep that in mind. We're hoping that we can accomplish a lot of work in the next year, connecting people with some of the climate action teams that we've created that kind of stemmed from our guest speaker presentations. We have built a huge community in all of our areas, and so we have some teams that we've plugged people into of their areas of interest, and Jenna's going to talk about that at the end of the presentation. So before, I guess I'm just going to introduce Landen now, and he is, oh, here it is. He is a father, husband, and homesteader in Landen, Arizona, and also a good friend of mine. His background is in permaculture, gardening, and food forestry. He's on the steering committee for Slow Food Prescott and is an active member and volunteer for NASCA. He's passionate about sharing solutions and pathways to an abundant future for the greater Prescott area. So I just want to say I'm so proud to be having this presentation tonight, because it doesn't get much grassroots than having a homesteader provide some information about what motivates him. So go ahead, Landen, it's yours.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks everyone for coming out today. It's really exciting to have so many people here, and also so many people that signed up that maybe couldn't make it yet. And when they see this later, I'm saying hi to all of you as well. Thanks for tuning in and hearing what I have to offer in the world of resilience. I've been in Landen for 6 years, and I've come to really love Northern Arizona and what it offers from the land and from the community. And yeah, I'm really excited to be able to share with you all. So let's get to it. Resilient community. So resilience is definitely a buzzword right now, which I find to be very exciting, because resilience is really important in my personal and professional work, and I also see it being extremely vital to the well-being and abundance of the greater community and ultimately the whole planet. So my goals in sharing with you today, to share a functional understanding of what resiliency is. By functional, I mean not just a theoretical idea and definition, but also actionable content and everyday practices that we can use to be resilient. And I'm very excited to have an open discussion at the end with the Q&A about what we as a community really want to see in a resilient community and our community in general, because resiliency is very grassroots, it's very people-based, and so it really takes all of us to be able to do it. I can't do it alone. A community takes everyone to make it happen. So when I'm going to talk about resilience today, I'm really talking mostly about systems. Systems are the functional design of how different components interact. The components can be the plants in a garden, the people in a community, or the people in an economy, the businesses in an economy, or the plants in a forest ecosystem. And I'm going to tap into analogies that connect all of these things, because we learn our greatest resilience from natural ecosystems, and then from there we can creatively apply the principles of resilience to every part of our life. And because nature is so resilient, when we mimic it, we innately become resilient ourselves. A quick rundown of some of the terms that I'll use with the systems-based approach is bottom up. This refers to a grassroots movement. The different people in the system come together on their own or independently and creatively and innovatively choose what they want to do. NASCA is very bottom-up oriented as well as slow food, and that's part of why they're so effective, because people can choose to come and go as they please, and I'll get more into what that offers in terms of resilience and the systems in a little bit. Top down is what we see a lot of in like corporate structures, and when we design something like a car, it's a very top-down system. A car is an entire system, and we design it for maximum control and safety, but it only does one function. So a car cannot innovate itself. The innovation always comes from thinking about it and tweaking it manually. And so that takes a lot of energy, where when we create a bottom-up like garden or food forest, then new inputs and actions take place without our direct input on it. And so that creates efficiency and new and exciting possibilities.
Hey, Landon, did you want me to put that first poll up?
Oh yeah, that would be great. Totally forgot about that.
Landon created a couple of polls to just kind of get a feel for the community that is interested in this type of a presentation. So I'm going to put it up right now. And if you don't mind just taking, whoops, wrong poll, don't do that one. All right. And so there you go. If you don't mind answering a couple of those questions, that would be great. Wow. A lot of farmers market people here. Love that. Wow, a lot of backyard gardens too. All right, looks like everybody's almost in. Okay. All right, Landon, you can.
Awesome. Yeah, I got those poll results too, Carrie.
Oh, you did?
That's,
Okay, great.
yep, that's awesome. I'm going to be talking more about backyard gardens and shopping locally and how those two actions both add to resilience on a community level in a bit. So I'm very glad to see such high results for those things. So the term resilient, what does it mean to be resilient? A dictionary definition is given on the slide right now. It can refer to objects like a bouncy ball is very resilient. That's not really what I'm talking about today. I'm going to be leaning more towards the individuals, the human-made systems like economies and ecosystems, which is where we gain the most wisdom and knowledge about how to create our systems. And there's really just three underlying factors to making a resilient system. If we increase any one of these, then our system will be more resilient. And also increasing any one of these usually tends to make an increase in the other two, which is very convenient. So to start with diversity, diversity is our first component of a resilient system. It refers to how many elements and more importantly, how many connections there are in a system. And an example of this is if you have a farm and it only has one place to sell its produce and that restaurant shuts down, then you no longer have an income stream. But if you have multiple sources of revenue, then if one shuts down, you can shift your resources into selling more at farmers markets or more at food co-ops, etc. It also works the other direction, where if there's only one farm in an area and that farm fails due to crop failure or poor business management, then no one gets any local food anymore. But when we have lots of local farms, if one falls away, then there's all these other ones to pick up the slack, and they might increase production or pick up the staff that was at the old farm, and the whole system of local food maintains its integrity because we have that redundancy in the system. Also, diversity creates amazing social interaction. An example of that I've seen recently is that my really good friend Gabe Curbs works at the farmers market, but he doesn't just work at the farmers market. He has other great social connections. So he likes to eat at amazing local restaurants that buy local produce from the local farms. And so he then saw a need for compost pickup at those restaurants. And then he was able to use his connections with the farmers market to apply for a grant for a community composting system. So that's in the works. He hasn't received the grant yet, but just the action of seeking out that grant is really amazing. And there's tons of other examples of people having multiple connections within that system and them naturally finding an innovation to offer something even greater than what could just be imagined by one person. So modularity, this one I think is probably my favorite component. I don't know why, it's an internal thing, but modularity is the capacity at which components of a system are self-organized. And I think it's my favorite because it just really speaks for itself once it's understood. So, and it creates interdependence. And I love interdependence. I love, as a homesteader, I love a sense of self-reliance, but I'm also not an isolationist, so I really love to be able to have an empowered interaction with my community, like having the free time on a Thursday at 6 to not have to rush home from work in order to do this. I have like the self-reliance to be able to make the time and space to share with you today what I find to be really important. Um, so by self-organizing, what I mean is that each component is in itself a system, and that system is whole in and of itself. That's where the term holistic comes from. Holistic means that the complete thing is whole, and also all of the smaller components are whole and functional independently. So the farm, the previous farm example, a farm is its own business and it's not reliant on the restaurant. Like the restaurant doesn't choose what it can and can't grow. It just creates a relationship of self-reliance. And the same goes for the restaurant. And the same goes for the people in those farms. Like to me, the most successful farm would be one where there's like a manager, but all of the workers can have some sort of say in how they get to carry out the tasks that are given to them. Or I'm on land use team with NASCA, and I feel empowered to step in and offer what I think is important, and that will be listened to, and I can act on it almost independently. And that's what really allows bottom up input and creation of a system where all the volunteers can come together and choose what they want because they as individuals are modular. And then the top down aspect of the system, which is still necessary, is not so much in one person, but it's in like a mission statement. So NASCA really wants to create a vision of resolving the climate crisis. And so as long as what you're offering is within that parameter, then you have kind of free reign to do that. And so you still have cohesiveness from the top down, but then you have innovation and ingenuity and fun creativity and real equity. Each individual feels like they have equity in that system. The term holistic really speaks to modular a lot. I wanted to give an example of what a holon is from the smallest to the largest scale and how it applies to nature. So the smallest holon that we know of would be an atom, and an atom is entirely self-contained. Like an atom can leave a molecule and still be an atom. An oxygen atom can leave the CO2 molecule and it's still just oxygen. And then a molecule becomes cells, and those molecules can trade in and out of cells independently. And then the cell becomes a multi-celled organism like us, or it becomes an organ within the multi-celled organism. And when you have a holistic health, all of your organs are functioning. And then I'm going to hop over to a tree, actually. So a multi-celled organism of a tree is then part of a forest. And the forest is actually a living organism and it self-regulates itself. And then all of the ecosystems of the world actually function as one organism and moderate the oxygen levels in the atmosphere. Without the global ecosystem, the oxygen levels would be like 2 or 3% in the atmosphere, but that holon of the entire earth operates to create the conditions for life as we know it to exist. And so when we design our human systems in the same way, when we give employees their own power within the system of the business, when we give businesses independence within the system of the economy, and when we give local economies the power and autonomy to make their own choices for what's best in their bioregions or in their states, etc., then we get extremely more energy efficient, and we also get a stronger sense of community and empowerment and ethical action on every level, because every single holon nested together in this way is happy and functioning. And that's what I find to be the true essence of holism and what it is to be holistic. So tightness of feedbacks. This one I really saw recently. So we always have feedback loops in a system. We always have inputs from the outside. There's an action and there's a consequence. And how quickly we see the consequence of our actions helps us make more ethical, more intelligent, and more energy efficient use of our action in the world. So an example of this is when the pandemic was announced in March. It was the day before my birthday. I remember it, March 11th. And the farmers market was like, okay, we're going to shut down this week. And then the week after that, they said, okay, we have these to-go boxes and everyone can order online and you can still get all of your local food. And all of the farmers ended up selling more food locally than they had been in the weeks prior. And this was because the feedback was so tight. It was so close to home. The farms are 40 minutes away, and the community that buys it is right there in the town. And we know that we want local food. And so and this is where it feeds into the other components, because all of those farms are so modular and because they were already used to having other ways of selling their produce to like restaurants or I don't know all of their other sources, but because they were smaller units and more able to shift how they were selling food, they were like, okay, yeah, we can just put food in boxes instead of putting it on tables. And so the result is that within 1 week, we had this feedback where the farmers market can then give feedback to the community of this is how we're going to give you food now. And then on the other opposite spectrum of feedback loops is, I'm going to use the oil industry. The dairy industry had a similar issue of not being able to package their milk for individual sell, the ones that were selling to restaurants and schools. And so it took them like 6 weeks to figure it out, and they dumped tons of dairy. But with the oil industry, it was even worse because even though they knew that they didn't have a demand for oil anymore because everyone stopped flying and driving their cars, the way that they created their system, they weren't able to stop the pumps. The way oil pumps work, you can't just stop them, and it's very expensive to figure out how to do it. And on top of that, they sell their oil in advance, so they continue pumping, and then all of the storage containers fill up, and then in April, you could actually be paid to buy oil because you would have to figure out how to store it. So oil was sold at negative $20 a barrel. And that just shows like the extreme loss of energy and loss of material resources. And it sounds completely ridiculous when we look at it, but it's because their feedback loops were almost non-existent, because they just assume that they will always be pumping out oil, and any change to that system is completely detrimental. Also, with the ethical choices, if we like choose to burn coal in our own backyard, we're going to notice the effects on the atmosphere and we're going to want to burn less of it. If we have solar panels on our house, we know exactly how much energy we get from it, and we also then try to limit ourselves to be within that limit of what we can provide for ourselves. And that leads to everyone using less energy and seeking solutions that are more efficient and more locally based in general. I do want to touch for a moment on individual resilience because that's something to look at as well. When we participate in resilient community and resilient actions in our surroundings, then our mental and emotional and physical resilience also increases. So physically, when we participate in like buying local food, which increases the resiliency of the food that would be available if supply lines were to shut down, it's also the most nutritious food we can eat, and so we become healthier. Mentally and emotionally, when we know that we're supporting a local economy and that those people are people that we know directly and we know that we can all help support each other, then we feel safe and secure, and we can not move into a state of fight or flight or a reaction. And so it goes hand in hand. The more we increase our resilience mentally and emotionally, the more we make choices that are then resilient for the community. And the more we make choices that are resilient for the community, the more that our mental and emotional resilience increases because we feel more safe and secure. Also about competition and cooperation, this also tunes into how nature works. There's a huge misnomer around survival of the fittest and that nature is a competition. But when we really look at ecology, we find that cooperation and finding your niche and finding the most important connections is what creates success. So the most successful organisms in an ecosystem provide the most vital connections to everything else. And so in a forest, the fungi that connect all the roots of the trees is very secure. It's like the last thing to go in a forest because everything else relies on it. It's the thing that connects all other beings, all other plant beings in the forest. But a bird has connections with like the trees, and it can like drop seeds and eat seeds and provides food for predators. But if like one type of bird disappears from a forest, there's still a loss to the system, but the entire thing doesn't crumble. Or if you were to remove the trees or the fungi from a forest, the entire thing would fall apart. And that's not because they're competing for resources, it's because they cooperate the most with everything else. And so we can also emulate that in our systems. We say, what is needed in my community? And how can I offer that or stimulate that being offered in my community? And when we do that, then we're brought into the web of experience with everyone else, where I feel like a warm hug from my community because I find what I want to offer and I say, hey, I think this is important. And when other people say, yes, this is important, when you all come here and say, yes, this is worth listening to, I feel that sense of security, like this is where I'm meant to be. And so I hope everyone can find that within their communities. And I'm here to also make those connections with all of you. And some actionable content. Here's a little list. Backyard gardens. The energy use of food is the most in climate change. They say it's transportation, but the dirty secret is that most of that transportation is for your food. So when you grow your own food, you remove that burning of fossil fuels and the energy required for those supply lines. And also, your local farmers are the ones that will be around if supply lines fall apart, which is a possibility. I don't live in like deep fear of that. I just live in preparation for a world where that is going to happen. Shopping local or starting a local business. One of my goals is to get a food co-op created in the Prescott area. If any of you have any input for that, I'm all ears all the time. It's still in the beginning stages. But a local dollar goes 7 times further, which means that when you spend a dollar locally, it bounces around 7 more times before it might leave out of town. And so that actually like creates more money within our town and our local economy. Volunteering, really great. Volunteering gets you hooked in with the community that's really active and really has a lot of caring, and they're also there to support you. Like, you come and volunteer and you are immediately supported in so many ways, and I felt that so much just by engaging with Slow Food and then engaging with NASCA. It's been a really wonderful journey there. Decentralizing the grid, I feel, is so important. Coal is, it's a finite resource, and when you look at the physics of electricity, you lose like 90% of it just traveling across distance. So really, so much more energy efficient, even if we just burned coal in our valley, than if we burned it far away. And then we wouldn't want to burn it anymore because that would suck to breathe. And ecological literacy really gives you the context for the issues and the opportunities within your area, because all economies are based on natural resources. And when we learn about our bioregion and we gain ecological literacy, we can learn how to contribute to our economy and to the well-being of our community, while also growing the ecosystem that is there to support that. It's a complete revolution from the extraction model, and ultimately, to me, it's the only way to go forward, as we've kind of hit our limit on how much there is to extract. And that is the PowerPoint.
Sorry for that pause there. So now everybody can turn on your videos, and we are going to open it up for Q&A. What, Landon? Oh. And just let us know if you had a question. I asked the first question there, Landon. I was just curious. You know, I'm all about the food co-op, but I was wondering if it's how is that different from the farmer's market, or is it the same, or is it just making it?
Yeah, so a food co-op means like a grocery storefront, and what that offers that the farmer's market does not offer at this time is food access, because as it is, unless you go to Chino on Thursdays, which you just missed it just closed 40 minutes ago when I started talking. The farmer's market in Prescott is only open to weekday workers. So if you're a weekend worker on a morning shift, you're never gonna make it. Right. And also, part of what I want within that food co-op system is a transportation system to get there, because there's a lot of low income and people that struggle with transportation that want to be able to eat local food, and also where like food stamps are involved with the nutrition benefits. You can double that up at the farmer's market, and you can also do that at food co-op. So that would open that up to be available every day of the week. And so you can essentially get local food, local produce at half price. And so that's a huge component for me, is just equal food access for everyone in the community. And then I just see that there's also an expansion of local farmers and how much they're able to produce, and new ones coming in and having more avenues to sell that produce. And yeah, it goes on, like, and then you can do like education stuff, and you can have a permanent place and a building and like a backyard, and you can do like education stuff there, and you can do like fundraisers, and it can just tie into all of the other community systems that are in place, like NASCA and Slow Food and the farmers market and the restaurants. And it can be a place to make food, produce, like food safe with a food certified kitchen, so that you can give it to the schools and all of those things. So
Kind of creating a network.
yeah, I just see it as like one more piece in a network that already exists that could then make some connections redundant in a healthy way, like I talked about, and also create some new connections and just fit in perfectly into the whole. And our local grocery store got like stolen from us by Whole Foods, and then we protested by not shopping there, and so it shut down. So it's just like Prescott is asking for it. It's like, come on, we had a local grocery store and we loved it, and now it's gone. Like, we need something. Sprouts
Right.
is not enough.
So does anybody else have any questions or comments? Oh, should we do the poll now, or I forgot to do the second poll again. So should I put up the poll now, Landon?
Yeah, the poll is good, and someone just said that they can't turn on their video.
Oh, are we blocking them, Jenna?
I can
And
try.
I see one person now. I see a few now, so.
Well, we can go through and invite people to, there we go, turn on their videos in case there's a challenge. But
Even if you just have comments, like open discussion, totally into it.
What can we do, or how do we volunteer to help facilitate a food co-op?
That is a great question. So I have not reached out into my network yet to see where like farms and the farmers market and restaurants and all of those things sit. So it's pretty open and up in the air. If you have something immediately that's like, oh, this is very important to a food co-op and I know how to help with this thing, please contact me. My email is in the resource page. And also, as things come up and as I start to really execute this, because I've been in like the planning phase, then part of my game plan is to reach out to NASCA and reach out to Slow Food with specifics. And so then through those avenues, ask for help when it's like needed on specific things.
That's a great question, Debbie. I will also interject here with the food choices and land use climate action team that we have here in Prescott. Right now, it's just in its very, very beginning stages of people saying they want to be on that team, and we haven't done a whole lot with it. We were going to have a Save Our Soil booth at the Earth Day celebration downtown Prescott. So that was really going to be like our big kickoff. And then, so that didn't happen. But we have had really great conversations, especially like this. Jenna had a meeting right around Earth Week, I think right before we kicked off Earth Week, about food choices. So we have a lot of interest around it, and we just haven't gelled or formulated as a team or set any kind of goals or actions. But the food co-op and working with the farmers market, NASCA partnering here in this community, Sedona and Flagstaff and in Cottonwood, where we have team just volunteer in a NASCA community already. We definitely want to start amplifying people's voices when they want to be involved and giving them that outlet. So if you're not already part of our NASCA community, you can go to the website and just say on the contact us and sign up, but in the comments just say, I'm interested in the food choice and land use team, and then we'll plug you in. Jenna and I, so NASCA.org, our contact information is on there. I'm going to email everybody the resource page that Landen was talking about. So he has links to a lot of resources, so that'll be helpful. So,
and talk to your friends about the co-op. Get hyped about it. If anyone's like, oh my gosh, I know the perfect spot to put it, let me know. Things like that, just like excitement, like this person wants to like sell there, and this person wants to help with like the county, and this person, like if those just like excited like offerings, even if it's not like with a date and time, then those things can just be put together. And that's a co-op. Like I cannot make a co-op all on my own. I'm too busy. And then it wouldn't be cooperative.
Yes, Myra?
I have a question about the getting off the grid and using solar. Do you have some way of doing that, Landen, that doesn't involve tons of batteries?
So yeah, I'm on solar right now, and there's a lot of companies that will lease you the panels, and it's the same cost as paying your power bill. And then you're tied into the grid. So if you use more than your solar panels provide, other months you'll use less, and APS will pay you for it, the power that you give them. So that's a way to get solar for the cost of a utility bill, which is what I did. The reason I said that batteries are a bonus, if that's something you can invest in, is that if there is grid failure, and I'm always thinking like 20 years ahead, that's part of my thought process. If like the larger power plant shut down and you're tied to the grid, then your power runs like water out into the grid. And so if the dam is empty outside, then it's going to flow out, and you're going to be trying to send your solar power to like California, and you're not going to get anything. And then if you manage to cut yourself off the grid, but you don't have batteries, then you can only use power during the daytime when the sun is shining. So you can't turn lights on at night. So the batteries help so that you could be off the grid potentially, and also you can then have power at night and when the sun's not shining, like on a cloudy day.
So is the technology available to make that reasonably affordable yet, or is that still pretty high cost?
Batteries, they're vastly improving all the time. I'd say they're mildly affordable. But solar panels right now are immediately affordable with the whole utility bill switcheroo thing. I did that. It was no hiccup.
Yeah.
They're great at installing them. And then you have the solar panel component, and that's a great first step. You would definitely be happy if the grid shut down and you could still like run your oven and blender it during the day. Like that would be amazing.
Thank you.
And Landen, I think Francis Reamer has a question for you too as well, if you're ready.
Yes.
My turn? Yeah?
Yep.
Landen? Or somebody else? Hi. Jenna, who's going? Me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Landen. Nice to see you. Great job. Great talk.
Thank you.
Yes. And so timely since all of our networks broke down, right? During the pandemic. Yeah. So great examples.
Well, not all of them. The resilient ones lived on.
Exactly.
So now it's like I have evidence and efficacy for what I'm talking about, instead of being like some prepper or something.
Yeah.
I'm not a prepper.
Yeah.
If I was a prepper, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
I would be prepping and not talking.
So I'm wondering, do you have any examples or that you think, wow, that would be cool in Prescott or Sedona? So other other communities that have managed to start doing this or moving along the path to doing this?
Yeah, in the resource page that you're gonna get emailed, there's this transition handbook, but you have to buy this one. But I have other books. I have this book. It's about permaculture. That one's a free ebook, so it's not just paid stuff on there. But yes, this one is about a town in England. It was the first one, and it's all about transitioning your community. And there are other examples out there, and everyone's kind of at their own level, and every place is unique because it's based on your bioregion. Like we use solar power, Maine uses wind power. It's totally different. Yeah, so I would check out that book, research it on the internet. I know Tucson has a lot that's involved in that. They like plant out their sidewalks and they harvest the rainwater into their like strips on the sidewalks. And Brad Lancaster's been doing that for like 20 plus years with great success, and the city is totally on board with it, and things like that are amazing. There's like a 7-acre food forest in Atlanta that they just started in the last year or two. A lot of the progressive towns have fun like food forests, food co-ops, local education atmosphere and activities in general. Places like Asheville, Ashland, Ojai, Austin to an extent, but Prescott's very on that level, I feel, with a healthy bit of conservatism.
Yeah, Sedona is like really well poised. Like we think we're hip, or we should think we're hip.
Yeah, we're super hip. We're hipper than Sedona. We love local food way more than them.
I know.
It's not a competition.
I know.
I love you all.
Yeah. We're lagging, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, Sandy, did you have a question?
I do. I have two questions. One is hasn't been mentioned about the community supported agriculture and shares sold by individual farms, which allows them to actually plan ahead if you sell your shares before your produce comes in. And my second question, so I would want Landen to talk about the role of CSAs in this area. And secondly, to describe what a food forest is.
Yeah. CSAs are really, really cool. I know Whipstone does one. Aguiar Farm has done one in the past. They're really great for up and coming farms because they can predict exactly how much they're supposed to grow that year and like hit that goal, and they don't have to worry about marketing. I think we don't see them as much in Prescott because the farmers market is so successful. Like I'm actually also starting a market garden. Call me crazy, I got a lot going on. And for me, I'm actually a little apprehensive about starting with the CSA because I'm like, well, what if I don't grow what I promise to sell? And the farmers market is so easy to get into, and it's so booming and successful that it's like a guarantee that you'll sell your produce there. And so CSA is definitely a huge avenue and one of those like multiple connections for a farm. Like Whipstone does a CSA and markets and restaurants, and it would be in the food co-op. Like they can just produce that much, and other farms are getting there and there in their own capacity. So thank you for bringing up CSAs because that's a great working model, and I see that with new upcoming farmers as a great avenue for them within the system to not have to deal with any of the bureaucracy involved in the other avenues, and marketing is a lot simpler. So food forests, I'm going to find a picture in this book. I thought about putting this picture in my presentation, but I couldn't figure it out. So just bear with me a moment. Okay, I'm going to go to the index. And I hope you can see this. Maybe if it's sideways. Can anyone see this? Is this working? So this shows the layers of the food forest. So you have like the canopy and then the understory, like your apples and your fruit trees. And then you have vines and climbers. So like you put vining plants on your trees and on trellises. And then you have like your bushes, like your berry bushes. And then you have like your herbaceous layer. So like in my backyard, I'm having a food forest startup, and I have like pear trees, and then I have Jerusalem artichokes that are a bunching plant nearby, and then I have mint and strawberries that cover the ground layer, and I have like blackberry bushes tucked in, and then I have like nitrogen fixing plants that actually bring the nitrogen out of the atmosphere, like clover, and that also is a pollinator plant to then get all the fruit trees pollinated. And then you can get nitrogen fixing trees like mesquite or honey locust or Siberian pea shrub, and those will feed nitrogen into the whole system, so you're not having to like import manure all the time. And when you create food forests in this way, it's the most nutrient dense and food dense way to grow food on land. So in a limited space, it's the most food you can get. And then in permaculture, we would posit that that's the most ethical choice you can make, is to use the least land possible, because we would ideally like to shrink how much land is necessary to support humans in order to allow nature and wildlife to then coexist with us on the planet. And you can have community food forests too, and those are really fun.
That is great. I'm going to go ahead and put up the that second poll. So this might also spark some new questions that you might have for Landen. Let's see here. All right, I launched it. So there's a lot of questions, so just take your time. It kind of helps us get an idea of, you know, where everybody is at. And, you know, with Landen, you know, working on the food co-op, you can obviously tell he's extremely passionate about this work, and everything that he says is inspiring. And so I want you to know that he is going to, you know, we're going to continue to work with Landen, and he's going to have a pivotal role on the food choices and land use team. And, you know, the first step is really just getting to know each other and finding out, you know, what you have, what your passions are, and so that we can, you know, connect all the dots, and then, you know, set some small achievable goals for the work that we do within the community. So I took that off of the first question of, you know, does this inspire you to take action in your community? So that's what our action teams are for. So Jenna's going to go over that after we're done with this presentation. She's going to kind of outline what climate action teams NASCA has, and you can let us know where you see yourself fitting in. Even if you don't want to be part of the action, but it's something you're passionate about, you can still join the team. You don't have, it's not just all about action, because you might have ideas that you can share that we can take action on. So, all right, about half of those are in, so I think we're gonna go ahead and end the poll. Can you see those, Landon?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Should I share these results? Does everybody want to see what? Okay, I'm going to share. I've never done this before. Super exciting.
Number 4 only lets you make one choice.
Oh. Well, we had a few different, some different people. I'm sorry, I ended the poll. That could have been why. It might have like froze your choices. I sincerely apologize. I like the variety on the topics that everybody's interested in. Awesome. Okay. Does anybody have any further questions? You can also just share maybe some of the things that you're doing in your own backyard. Oh, speaking of backyards, I'm going to take this opportunity to pitch our, we have a new project that we're going to be working on in the fall. We're going to be doing hopefully a video podcast, and part of that kind of interviewing people in the community and finding out what they're doing that has to do with environmentally friendly projects. And we're going to head out to Landen's homestead out there in Paulden, and we're going to film and do a video postcard so we can bring everything that he's been talking about to the screen and share that with you. So so look for that. And yeah, feel free to share with us anything that you're doing that's working at home and inspiring you to feel like you're making a difference.
Yeah, Sandy, go ahead.
Sorry, back to Landon again. Can you talk about the role of food banks and gleaning as part of a resilient community?
I know that there are food banks in Prescott, but I'm not totally familiar with their form and function when it comes to gleaning, because of how quickly you want to eat the ripe fruit. And I'm also just not super privy. I haven't done a lot of personal research into the structures of food banks, but I'm definitely interested. I personally glean a lot of food and preserve it, and also share some of my gleaning secret locations, like Flagstaff. Go get your apples. There's too many. Just walk the streets. And I would love to see more avenues for like group gleanings that are then like taken to like a market immediately to just be like distributed, because banking fresh produce gets messy. But I also see food banks like being a great resource for that. Like, oh, we have this food bank distribution like this weekend, like bring that produce. And I would love to hear more and like be part of any interactions with that in any way that I could be helpful. That sounds really amazing to me.
Any other questions from anyone else? I think we're getting down there, and so there's a lot of us that you can just shout out to. If I don't see you kind of raising your hand or asking, please feel free.
I planted my first sunflower plant and it bloomed today from seeds. I've never done that before. I was like, well, I don't even know what to do. So I just put them in my planter with all my other, my flowers, that I just get from the waters, I just put them, the flowers are already there. That's how I do things. And then I thought I'd put some sunflower seeds in the soil and see if it worked, and it did. My first time ever.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm gonna post that picture on Facebook. You know I will.
Yeah, I'm excited for that video postcard thing. Everything's exploding right now.
I know. And I need help like with the first steps of composting. I have anxiety. I don't know. I mean, it's sad enough that I have
Maybe
to
we'll
get-
do a compost talk and how to make easy.
Yeah, maybe you can flip the camera around and do a video postcard of Carrie starting her anxiety composting in her own yard. That would be something.
Yes.
If I can do it, anybody can do it. That's what we'll title it.
Yep. Oh, and if that community compost thing happens that I mentioned with the farmers market, they will take drop off at the farmers market. They said they would. And I was like, Gabe, you don't know what you're getting into, because you think like, he's like, yeah, we'll probably fill like a couple trash cans of compost every week. And I'm like, you're going to have a dump, like a whole bin full of compost like every week. Like,
I know.
everyone's going to be like, yes, you take care of it. Thank you.
And like you, Landon, you know, I have a very systems oriented mind. So when I heard all about it and I signed up, I said I'd be a volunteer. And I was thinking about how amazing that is that we could just drop our composting off, but then, you know, there's only certain things that are compostable. So I figured we'd have to have like a membership, like you're a member of the community compost, meaning you have this card and you went through the training and you are authentically composting and not. That was.
And he did mention like having education at the site to like teach people how to do it at home, so you don't have to give it to them, and then you can use it in your own garden, which is the best. It's the best thing to put in your garden is your own compost.
Right.
There's science around that. Like, it's literally the best by science definitions.
So as I'm revealing to everybody about how, you know, not environmentally friendly I was until I had this job for a year and a half, I'm really into like raking my yard and like, you know, I just take care of it, manicure. I don't use a blower, but I would throw away and bag all my leaves. Like this, I feel like these are confessions of Carrie. And then I found out.
But so many people do it.
I found out, I mean, I knew the plastic bags were bad, but I didn't know that the leaves were bad too in the landfill. And so now I put all my leaves and everything in a paper bag from True Value, $1.99 for 4 of them, and I reuse those. And I haul it all down there myself, and I take through my van, they weigh it, and then you can take the mulch, so for free. So once you dump your own, whatever yard dropping weight, you know, leaves and stuff, they let you take out all of the, you know, chopped up compost or the mulch. So I thought that was cool. I learned that on my own.
Yeah, they do that in Paulden too with the scraps, like the tree trimmings and stuff. I get so much free mulch. Like, yeah, keep not knowing what to do with your branches, I'll take it all. I can be a little selfish in my own way. I want all the mulch. It's my mulch.
So those are just a few things that I've done, but anybody else want to share?
I hear what Gary's saying about the compostability of stuff, but I do want to also throw in that I compost a lot of citrus rinds with no problem. So not everything they say isn't compostable actually isn't compostable. A lot of it is, but yeah, you got to kind of, if you have like thick branches and stuff, that's going to cause a big mess later. That's why you do it at home. And they have the transfer station or the dump for the landscape trimmings, and they just mulch it and give it away. So go get your free mulch. They'll load it up for you too. You go on the right day. So you have a truck. So, yeah.
All right, Jenna, do you have anything else, Landon?
I don't think so. Just want to say thanks to everyone again for coming and listening to me speak about things, and I'm very excited to be in this community with everyone and have this kind of experience and excitement build for everyone.
Yeah, so now you all know who Landen Schaelling is. So when you see that we roll out the video podcast featuring the video postcard from Paulden, you'll know and you'll want to tune in. So we'll be getting that started in the fall. We're going to be doing a lot of work on our website to make it so that it's a much, like a really healthy resource for everybody as far as like posting up, PowerPoints and all different kinds of resources. So Jenna and I, now that, it looks like we're going to be not in person for a while, we're thinking of some other projects that we can work on that we wouldn't have normally had the time for because we were out knocking doors or handing out flyers and stuff. So NASCA.org. And then Jenna's going to go over a little bit, get you excited about all the climate action teams that are popping off here in our communities.
Yes, I'll be somewhat quick, but I just wanted to say that how lucky I feel that Landen has kind of joined this NASCA community. And I know he said it before, but I truly believe him when he says he's available, because he loves to talk about this stuff and he's so knowledgeable. And we'll make sure in the follow-up email that you can reach out to Carrie and I with questions, or even Landen. We're so fortunate to have people like that in our communities that are willing to teach the rest of us how to do stuff like compost and what fruits to grow next to each other and stuff like that. So thank you so much, Landen. And just kind of to quickly talk about climate action teams, and I might be able to share this with you, just kind of a quick list of kind of the teams that have been started. And so this is kind of just a broad list. The names and teams kind of vary by region. And that's because these teams are really created by all of you. They're created by volunteers. Carrie and I have been reaching out kind of right before COVID. We kind of got started on this project, and we asked people what they're interested in, because sometimes people aren't interested in knocking on doors with us, and that's totally fine. We're here for you guys, and we want to kind of focus on whatever you want to focus on. So these are the kind of a short list of what's been started. And in our follow-up email, we're going to be sure to find a way to make it really easy, if maybe just like a respond yes, if you kind of want to hear more about possibly the food choices and land use, since you guys all showed up to this presentation, might be something you're interested in. But I just want you guys to know that we're always available, and kind of like Carrie said, if you have an idea for a project that fits into these categories or any other categories, we're eager to hear about it and try to make our communities better for all of us, as well as people in the community that don't have time to join stuff like this. So you guys were a wonderful group, and appreciate all the questions. And we'll be reaching out tomorrow with the follow-up, and touch base with us anytime you need.
Yes, and thank you so much for being here. Jen and I, NASCA gives us the month of June off, so that's where we were. So I think we had a great response to this presentation. We want to keep the dialogue going, and don't forget, I just saw Bonnie Lane pop her video on. She's helping Beverly and the NASCA volunteers in Cottonwood with the shoe strike for climate justice. And just visit our website and then click on events and Cottonwood, and it'll give you all the details. They're going to be donating the shoes after the strike. It's important that we keep our activism strong, even during these difficult times where we're having to stay at home or be distanced. So well, thank you very much. And I'm going to share this out with you tomorrow. So look forward to getting an email from carrie.nasca@gmail. That's me. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Landen.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Carrie. It was great.
Thank you.